Hello and welcome to a new episode of Library of the Week. Today we will be talking about Segno. This is a fantastic library to create QR codes like the one you see in the screen right now. And we will be actually creating this same QR code and some others at the end of the video. I will show you some examples. Before I continue, this is part of a series of articles I do on Medium. So each article has its own video to go along it. And if you want to read the article, you will have the link in the description of this video. Segno is, in my opinion, a good example of a library that does one thing but does it well. And that thing is creating QR codes. You can create the typical black and white QR code, or you can create artistic looking QR codes like the one you see in the screen right now. It allows you to personalize different elements from the aspect, like things like the color of the dark and the light parts of the QR code. And you can also change the error correction, the version of the QR code. You can actually create micro QR codes too with Segno. Not that that's something I have never really had use for, but if that's your case, you can. And yeah, basically everything that could be personalized in a QR code you can with Segno. So this is the library I personally use when I have to create a QR code. I actually created a very similar QR code to the one of the screen that I put in my resume, and it was sending to my portfolio back in the days. So I've been using this library for quite some time, and I think it's a great one. Another good aspect of Segno is that it is a very well documented project. The documentation is simple. It's basically an API that lets you create QR codes. So it's not that it's very complex or complicated, but it has, as you can see, a lot of different functions. We will actually see some of these later in the examples. The documentation is so great that it even has a section for things that Segno doesn't do, but you can do with another library called Pillow, such as adding an alpha channel to your QR codes to create transparencies, or to add a logo to the middle of your QR code, which is something a lot of people want to do to personalize. As I just said, this is my personal go-to library to create QR codes. There are others, such as QR Code and QR Code Gen. The Segno documentation comes with a table that compares these three libraries. There might be other libraries out there that I don't know of. If you have a different library that you like, maybe you can leave that in the comments of this video. I would be interested to know about what you use for this particular task. And as you can see in this last column, Segno really comes with a lot of personalizing options that other libraries don't. So apparently optimized QR codes, whatever that means, is something you cannot do with Segno and that you can do with QR code. But Segno seems to do more things than other libraries. Let's now check some basic statistics about this package. The date of review for these stats is August 21 of 2023. We are currently in version 1.5.2. The last 30 days, this package has been downloaded 68,000 times using pip, and it has over 80,000 Conda downloads. The first release of this package is from 2016, and you can see that the latest release is from May of 2022, so it's not very old. It has no dependencies, as we said earlier, which is a great thing. And on GitHub, the project has 434 stars, 47 forks, 11 watchers, and 9 contributors. So this is not a project with a huge community, but I don't think it is the kind of project either where a big community is needed. It has a source rank of 13 on libraries.io. So let's now see a few examples of how to use Segno. The first thing is we import the library with import Segno. And the next thing we're going to do is create the QR code object with the Segno.make method. In this case, QR code message is a string that will contain the information inside the QR code. I chose to put a web page. This sends to a YouTube list with all the library of the week videos. And so now we have this QR object, and if we actually want to have the QR code, we need to use the QR.save method. And see here, this created an image. We're going to see it in a second. So simple QR code.png is obviously the name of the image. And here I also use scale equals 10. The bigger the number, the bigger the image will be in terms of pixels. If I leave this argument blank, because this is an optional argument that defaults to 1, the QR code is really very small, so setting it to 10 I think gives a good result. You can experiment, but 10 seems good to me. And here you have the QR code, so if you try to scan this will send you to the YouTube videos of Library of the Week. And so it's as simple as that. Now we have a simple QR code, and let's see now some more complex examples. So the first thing we're going to do is to pass some more parameters to the save method. As you can see, we can reuse the QR object that we created before, so this is still the YouTube list with the videos. In this case, I'm going to use the dark and light parameters. So when you take the QR code we just created, the dark is obviously the part in black, and the white is the part and the light, is the part in white. But we can set that to the colors we want. I still keep the scale at 10, we saw that before, and I can also add a border around the QR code. By default, this is set to 4. In this image you don't see it very good because the border is white and everything is white, the background is white. But here I set the dark color to red and the light color, I set it like this. This is actually a number I put randomly. I know this is a hexadecimal number, and just to show that you can actually set it with hex codes, or I could have also used an RGB notation. And we have now the simple QR code with a big border. You see, this is pretty ugly, but it's just to show you that it can work. And if you scan it, it's basically the same QR code as this one, but with colors. A second example, which is basically almost the same, I'm still using the same colors for for dark and light. I'm setting the border to 0, so you see the difference. And also there is this find dark equal yellow, and I want you to see what this does. See this yellow part here? So first of all, we see that there is no border like before because we set it to 0. And these yellow parts correspond to the finder, to the dark part of the finder. This is the finder because when you scan a QR code, the program that reads it uses these big squares to position, and it's basically so it knows how to read it, right? Like it needs to go left to right and in this position, and if you scan it upside down it will work too because of these 3 squares. The documentation actually lists all these extra parameters. So we have the finders, and each time you have the dark and the light part. So the finder, the data, which is, well, basically the data, the version, all this is parts, very specific parts of your QR code that can be colored in a differential way. And actually you can use this to learn how a QR code is designed and to learn the anatomy of the QR code and the different parts. Keep in mind though that when QR codes are small in terms of the data inside is not very big, some of these parameters they're like useless, and bigger QR codes become more complex and you're going to have more finders for the alignment. And so there is things in here that if your string of characters, the information, the data is too small, they will be useless. But yeah, you can experiment with this, or if you already know how QR codes work, then as you can see, you can basically personalize everything. The next thing we're going to do, and this is actually very cool, is we're going to create a V card. Segno comes with a helpers class that lets us create these V cards. A V card, in case of you don't know, it stands for virtual card, and when you scan it, as you can see here, I have my name, the displayed name, the phone. This is obviously a fake phone. This is why I put you can try to call me, and you have you can put the URLs, you can put emails, basically all the contact information, and when someone scans this V card, it can easily be stored in your phone. So let's see, we create it, and once again we have to use the save method to create our QR code. And you see vcard appears now here, and we can see how it looks, and you will see that this vcard actually works, and you can store my information in your phone. I suggest you don't, but it works. And the last thing I want to show you is the artistic QR codes. So this is actually pretty cool. I talked about it at the beginning of the video. It's the one with the YouTube symbol in it, and you can basically use an image. Here I am in the documentation of this QR code artistic package. So technically this would be another library, but it is linked to Segno. It is by the same person, and they kind of go together, and this is why I talk about it in this video. I was not going to make a separate video just for this QR code artistic library. That they basically go together, right? And you can use GIFs, and you can see this is pretty cool with Maggie Simpson and the Beatles. And it doesn't have to be GIFs, right? It can be a normal image. Keep in mind that it will be a square, and one thing that I have noticed when I have used this is that sometimes if the image in the background has too much dark and light contrast, it can mess with the reliability, I would say, of the QR code. So try to choose images that allow you to create sufficient contrast for the darks and the light parts of the QR code, so the devices that will scan it understand what they're doing, right? So let's come back to our notebook and let's create our artistic QR code. For that, I have a youtube.png image here. So you can see this is just the YouTube symbol. And just to let you know, because the background of this is white, this part in here around the play button is actually white color, but outside of the YouTube circle, the red circle, it's transparency. So you see it as white, but it's not white. It's basically transparent background. So once that we have installed our QR code artistic library, we don't need to import it again, as long as we had import Segno, and we just use QR. So QR is still our object we created before. .toArtistic. We define a background, which is the YouTube image I just showed you. Target will be the name of the file we want to create. So in this case, I called it YouTubeQR.png, and I define the dark and the light parts like I did before. In this case, I put a scale of 8, and let's see what happens when I execute this. Okay, you can see YouTube QR is created here. And you can actually see that the fact that there is a transparency allows for a better looking image. So that will be it. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Library of the Week. It was a bit different. Tell me if you like this kind of libraries, if you prefer bigger libraries, or tell me also if you knew Segno and if you use any other library to create QR codes. Do you create QR codes? Is it something that interests you? I want to know all that. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and click on the notification bell. I hope to see you soon. Until next time.